Vanguard article, growing older doesn't mean spending less. Dateline June 24th, 2019. Someone had sent this to me to look at, so let's see what they say. I'm always up for a challenge because I haven't read this yet, so we'll read it together and learn. Data show the world is getting grayer. The number of people over 65 is expected to nearly double to an unprecedented 15% of the world's population between 2015 and 45. The proportion will be even higher in some regions, about 1 in 3 in Japan and 1 in 4 in Europe and the Americas. The implications for a global economy of such rapidly aging populations aren't as clear-cut as might be expected, according to a new Vanguard research paper. The paper is part of the Megatrend series, which considers the effects of fundamental shifts in global economies. Let's see if I can't make this bigger. I guess that's not right. Okay. I'm not sure how to do that, my friends, so not with my Mac. All right, we'll keep at it. Let's see. Older individuals will work longer as eligibility ages for the public retirement programs rise. Productivity may increase as rising costs amid tighter labor markets spur investment. A growing aging population doesn't necessarily lead to lower investment returns. And finally, the elderly don't consume less than younger populations. They just consume differently. All right, let's see what they say. I don't know about that, but we shall read on and find out. Let's see. The last point in particular shows how assumptions about demographics can be flawed. It seems reasonable to assume that people are likely to curb their spending later in life, especially when they no longer earn a paycheck. But we haven't made that assumption. That's the point. That assumption hasn't been made. It's almost like, for up until essentially a few years ago, everyone assumed your spending was going to get higher and higher and higher. And so now now that it's almost like saying about carbohydrates. We all recognize now that high carbs and low fat is bad. So we should go. But we got to be careful of not having enough carbs. But wait a second. What? Literally just 5 years ago, no one was recognizing that, and yet all of a sudden out of nowhere, because now it's the opinion has changed in a different way. Everyone's like, oh yeah, no, everyone do that. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. It's like global cooling in the 70s, and all of a sudden James Hansen in 1988. And global warming. All of a sudden people say, no one really, global cooling wasn't a big issue. Yeah, it was. Just read the research. Same kind of thing with carbohydrates. No. High fat, low fat, high carb diets wasn't really all that preponderant. All that, what's the word I'm looking for in the vernacular? Yes, it was. But now that we've kind of crossed the precipice, everyone says, oh, yeah, no one thought like that. This is the point about this. It seems reasonable to assume that people are likely to curb their spending later in life, especially when they no longer earn a paycheck. That fits with what many of us have noticed with older relatives. But they don't buy new clothes because they already have a perfectly good wardrobe. Or they drive an older car because it still has a lot of miles left in it. But where was Vanguard? This is the stuff that drives me flipping insane. This insinuation that this is common knowledge, when just literally a few years ago, no one would have said that. No one would have said it's common knowledge that people spend less as they get older. They were saying the exact opposite. Our research, though, suggests a counterpoint. Past consumption patterns of the elderly in both the developed and developing world challenge the common narrative of a steep drop in demand for goods and services. This drives me insane. United Nations survey data from 40 countries showed stable levels of consumption as a percentage of income starting in young adulthood. The most detailed data for the United States show that older individuals spend differently, not necessarily less. People entering retirement begin to cut back on clothing, travel, entertainment, cars. They also spend a little less on eating out and education, but they begin to spend more on other things. As the illustration below shows, healthcare becomes a larger expense as people age. Housing spending also increased, especially for the very elderly who are more likely to live in retirement homes or extended care facilities. That's not what the Census Bureau says. All right, let's see where they're getting this from. They're using it from US BLS, so let's see what they say. All right, percent of peak annual consumption. All right, older. So we're saying your peak annual consumption, let's say 73 to 90. Your consumption stays flat. Yeah, your healthcare goes up. No one denies that. Your housing, it looks like, is stayed, it looks like pretty close to the same what it did between 54 and 72. But again, percent of peak annual consumption. I don't even know what that means. Your highest consuming year? What percent is going to housing? Well, again, we know it's about a third, if not a little bit more. Healthcare is about 15%. Apparel, leisure, and transportation, I don't get it. So from 54 to 72, it drops. You can't. I just don't get it, man. I mean, that is not staying flat. That is a drop in consumption. And again, if your house is paid off, that light purple there will drop significantly, which we show. We show that in the Census Bureau data, which I wrote in my book. All right, I don't get that at all. A word of caution: the data provide a snapshot of individuals who've retired only in the past 2 decades. But the whole article is that it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to spend less, but we see valid proof right there that they do. That's just weird. And it's a percent of peak annual consumption, which it sounds like is relative to your the income that you have. The most detailed available right here. Past consumption, hold on just a second. Yeah, okay. Shows stable levels of consumption as a percentage of income. So your income as a percentage of your income, stable levels of consumption. But what happens to your income when you retire? It goes down. So, this doesn't make sense. So if you're consuming up to your income level, which you are, that only makes sense. We know that. In fact, in America, most people are consuming above their income level. And then their income level drops off like a brick in water because no longer making money. Well, your percentage of consumption relative to your income level might go up, but your consumption doesn't mean it's gone up in the totality of it. It just is weird. I don't get it. All right, let's keep reading. The data provide a snapshot of people who've retired only in the past 2 decades. Projections that future generations will behave similarly come with a high degree of uncertainty. For example, individuals may choose to work longer for many reasons, effectively delaying any economic effect of a graying population. So spending by the elderly in the future could look quite different than what we've seen in the past. Okay. All right. Well, investment implications of an aging population. It may be tempting to aim for outsized gains by investing in sectors such as real estate or healthcare, for example, that might seem to stand to benefit from an aging population. But short-term trends may already be priced into the markets, while longer-term trends may take time to play out. All right, that article didn't leave comments? No. I'm going to have to say I did not. Let's see if it lets me. Yeah, I did. All right, sweet. I didn't find that helpful at all. That's too bad. That would have been good. All right, so stay tuned because I'm going to show you another. On the lines of the healthcare costs going up, which no one's going to deny that as you get older. Here's an article from NPR. Medicare Advantage plans overbill taxpayers by billions annually, record show. NPR doesn't like that. Medicare Advantage is a voucher plan. All right, it's a voucher. It's a free market private entity. The government pays them by the head. The insurance companies then fight for the scraps, and then incredibly efficient and reducing costs. But without question, we're going to have some issues with overbilling. I mean, hell, look at Medicare. You think Medicare itself doesn't have its insane overbilling? I mean, just look at VA. So we know NPR, again, it's like the BBC. These are left-wing. I mean, these are just leftists. We know this for a fact. I don't know why we fund these things for taxpayers. But it goes to the thing about your billing in terms of your healthcare billing relative to what Medicare Advantage plays for you specifically. Does that make sense? So if we're going back to this article by Vanguard and they're using BLS numbers, where the BLS is getting their healthcare numbers derived? Are they getting derived from the actual mom and pop who are funding their Medicare Advantage, the premiums and whatnot? Or are they getting it from the hospitals? Are they getting it from the doctor's office? Where is the actual dollars coming from? Because it's coming from the Medicare Advantage plans themselves about the cost for health plans. That might show you that it's not nearly as bad as you would think. Will the insurance companies overbill? Maybe, but let's read this. So anytime it's from NPR, I take it with a grain of salt because I know they're never going to write anything negative on Medicare. They're never going to, because Medicare is essentially a single payer. Not quite like that, but and at the end of the day, the leftists love Medicare, and I do like Medicare. I'm not going to lie to you, I do. But I do like Medicare Advantage. I won't get it. I'll get a Medigap. I'll get a Medigap for sure. But Medicare Advantage has solved a lot of problems for many people. Let's not pretend. But it is a voucher plan, and the leftists don't like vouchers. Keep your politics out of it, Josh. Well, that's the way I look at it, and that's the way you've got to look at it too, because at the end of the day, this is what you're planning your retirement on. You want to plan on real numbers. And if the real numbers aren't real after all, then you got to do a different change there. So health insurers that treat millions of seniors have overcharged Medicare by nearly $30 billion over the past 3 years alone. But federal officials say they are moving ahead with long delayed plans to recoup at least part of that money. So they're saying that as if it's, let's see here. They're saying that if it's correct, let's see what we got here, as if that's a factual. So I want to go to paymentAccuracy.gov. Yeah, okay, no, there you go. So they're saying that cash loss by fiscal year, 11 million FY, look at that, 11 million, 11, what was that, 11 billion in 2016, and then it started getting knocked down in 2017-18. What happened in 2016 that didn't happen in 2017? Interesting. And here's a goal getting payments right. This is interesting, actually. This is the first time I've seen that. Okay, so what's the root cause? Insufficient document. So in FY fiscal year 2018, looks like they're going to lose $8 billion. Insufficient documentation to determine resulted in overpayments of $8 billion. Reduce insufficient documentation to determine errors through contract level risk adjustment, data validation audits, improved policy based on statutory requirements, and expanded education to Medicare Advantage organizations. Anticipated impact of mitigation. Health and Human Services takes a holistic approach to develop corrective action from various perspectives. Impact on the improper payment rate, maybe not realized. Okay, good. Well, there you go. Completed, finalized cash loss. Okay, well, in this case, it looks like the government is saying they did lose $30 billion. So it's not just NPR stating that. So good on NPR for actually reporting, not just using an opinion, but actually using some data from our own government. But okay, cool. So I do agree with that. Fantastic. Let's see. Officials have known for years that some Medicare Advantage plans overbill the government by exaggerating how sick their patients are, or by charging Medicare for treating serious medical conditions they cannot prove their patients have. Getting refunds from health plans has proved daunting, however. So where's that coming from? Okay. Officials with the CMS Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services repeatedly have postponed or backed off efforts to crack down on billing abuses and mistakes by the increasingly popular Medicare Advantage plans offered through private health insurance under the contract with Medicare. Today, such plans treat more than 22 million seniors, more than 1 in 3 people on Medicare. And, I mean, I'm just telling you, if you can't afford a Medicare supplemental policy, i.e. Medigap, you need to look at Medicare Advantage. You don't want to be naked just on having A and B alone. You got to have something else. So at least look at Medicare Advantage, while not perfect, certainly better than nothing. That's what my man J.O. talks about. He talks about it all the time. Like, look, he didn't say this explicitly because he doesn't know you, but he would say if it's between Medigap and eating cat food, well, let's look at Medicare Advantage because that could give you something better than nothing. Now CMS is trying again, proposing a series of enhanced audits tailored to claw back $1 billion in MA payments, overpayments by 2020. At the same time, Health and Human Services Inspector General's Office has launched a separate nationwide round of Medicare Advantage audits. In the past years, such scrutiny faces an onslaught of criticism from the insurance industry. It's hard for me to be sympathetic with the insurance industry when they went hook, line, and sinker on the Affordable Care Act, because they love the idea of Obama mandating you buy an insurance product. They loved it, and so they went with that hook, line, and sinker. They sold their soul to the devil, big government. They said, we will sell our soul in order to have a guaranteed supply of customers. Well, when you do that, you're going to get increased faces of scrutiny, increased scrutiny on the products that you're selling, and you should, because are you taking advantage of the taxpayers' charity is what's going on here? And the answer sounds like yes. And so here we go. Americans Health Insurance Plans, an industry trade group, blasted the CMS audit design when details emerged last fall, calling it fatally flawed. Insurer Cigna warned in a May financial filing, if adopted in its current form, the audits could have a detrimental impact on all Medicare Advantage plans and the ability of plans to deliver high quality care. They'll probably have to raise the price. And here we go with the Senator Claire McCaskill, Missouri Democrat, who now works as a political analyst, says officials must move past lobbying efforts. Yeah, but old Claire was the big, she certainly did that while she was in office, because when you're in the office, you want to stay in office and you scratch the back of the lobbyist. I don't. Why would we take Claire McCaskill seriously? I don't know. All right. So in an overpayment dispute, health plans want CMS to scale back, if not kill off, an enhanced audit tool that, for the first time, could force insurers to cough up millions in proper payments they've received. I don't have a problem with that. For more than a decade, audits have been a little bit more than irritant to insurers because most plans go a year without being chosen for review and often pay only a few $100,000 in refunds as a consequence. When auditors uncover errors in the medical records of patients the insurers were paid to treat, CMS has simply required a rebate for those patients for just a year audited. Yeah, that's nuts. The latest CMS proposal would raise those stakes enormously by extrapolating error rates found in a random sample of 200 patients to the plan's full membership. I got no qualm with that, none whatsoever. I mean, if you're on the government dole, which you guys are, you got to be willing to take the extra burden of proving you're not overbilling us, the taxpayer. There's no money in Medicare, man. Medicare is going bankrupt, and some certain groups are basically taking it without being audited. That's only going to make the system go even worse. So, I got no problem with this at all. Since 2007, the industry has successfully challenged the extrapolation method, and as a result, largely avoided accountability for pervasive billing errors. So there you go, man. All right, good job on you, NPR. I got no problem with this. I'd like to see the OIG audit for Social Security and see if you had an article on that. And I'd also like to see how many freaking people are screwing Medicare, not just Medicare Advantage, stealing from the Medicare system, and what happens to those people who are doing that, because that happens all the time. We know this for a fact. For a fact, Medicare is losing billions of dollars of scoundrels. We know that. And here's CMS writing in the Federal Register. The public has a substantial interest in the recoupment of millions of dollars of public money paid to the health insurers. Okay, no, I get you, man. So let's see if they do this. So essentially, they're going to randomly audit. They're going to say we're going to random 200 people in your Medicare Advantage group, and we're going to find out what's going on. If we find some issues, we're going to come after you like white on rice. No qualm with me there at all. Do they allow comments here? Guess not. All right, cool. I guess no comments there. All right, well, there you go, man. I got no problem with that. So we shall see what happens. But at the end of the day, kind of going back to what does this have to do with the Vanguard study? Well, if Medicare Advantage plans are overbilling Medicare, that means Medicare doesn't have as much money to pay its bills, which means your premiums are going to have to go up for sure. So we need to nip that in the bud. So anyway, just going back to the Vanguard thing, that literally did not prove anything about your spending in retirement. It didn't. So I'm just kind of disappointed to see that. I mean, think about it. Vanguard, growing older doesn't necessarily mean spending less. What is it? What was Vanguard conclusion? Let's see. The short-term maintaining balanced, diversified, long perspective strategy. Well, they didn't say it. But let me just think. If you're saying you might not spend as little as you thought, you better work longer, better save more. Don't forget to pound the like button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.